Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to those of you around the world. Welcome to the daily Trade the Chain crypto update, where we give you everything you need to know for the next 24 hours and hopefully the next few days. Today is Wednesday, April 12th, and it is CPI day, which was a pretty big day in the markets, very highly anticipated. The data that came in, we're going to focus on the year over year data, was 5%, where it was expected at 5.1%, and previously was 6%. So we have a 1% drop in CPI data compared to last month, which is a steep drop and very well off the highs that we were at, several months ago. So definitely headed in the right direction. But the issue is that core actually ticked up a little bit from 5.5% to 5.6%. Now, it was at the expected number, but with core, and remember, core is CPI minus energy and food costs, is ticking higher, which isn't obviously a big tick, but not the direction we want it to go, which is why I think we saw a lot of the volatility that we did today, meaning immediate buy on the beat, but pull back on the fact that core CPI did not really beat or even drop. So that is still a concern. Now we have the FOMC minutes that will come in about 30 minutes. Now this is a bit of stale data because obviously we had unemployment data and we had CPI come in after the last FOMC meeting, but this will give us, the minutes of the last FOMC meeting and tell us, what the conversation was within the meeting and what, Fed governors are really talking about in the meeting. So this will be definitely a potential volatility moment, but I don't think this will have too much impact unless it's quite obvious what the federal governors will do next meeting. But typically that none of that is set in stone from the minutes. So it's, take it with a grain of salt. It is a bit of a stale old information as we have two new data points in the mix. So we do have PPI tomorrow, which is, CPI is consumer inflation, PPI is producer inflation. So we obviously do want to see that ticking lower as well. So previous months were 4.6 and then 4.4 for core. So we definitely want to see that decrease. And as you're seeing, it's projected to, not change month over month, but core is projected to rise a little bit. So very similar to what we saw up here. So we'll have to keep a lookout for that tomorrow. Obviously, if that is a miss, we could see some downside volatility from that, potentially a quick buyback. But if it is a miss, I would expect some downside volatility. So something to look out for tomorrow morning, although not as important as CPI, will definitely play into tomorrow's volatility. So definitely watch out for PPI. Now let's talk about the charts. So as we talked about, if CPI was a beat, the dollar headed lower. It is now at equal lows as from where it was yesterday. I would expect this to likely creep lower, but the 102.5 level is where you would expect a reversal. So either it heads lower from here or it heads higher. If it heads lower, risk is obviously getting the benefit. If it heads higher, risk is obviously getting the detriment. So we want this to continue lower for higher risk price action. Right now, it's very tough to tell, but if I was a betting man, I would say this is going to end up creeping lower. We may see a little bit of a catch here and it may try to rise a little bit, but I would say the volatility will be low and it will likely just continue to creep down. So looking at equities, the magic number this morning, right after the open, we were trending down towards that 4110 level, which coincided with the previous daily close as well as the VWAP. So if we, above 4010, we have, plausibility to get up to 4140, 4145. We could potentially get rejected there, but as long as we're above 4010, definitely that is in the cards. And obviously, told the Trade the Chain community 4090 would be possibly the low point. We got to 4095. So, if you did short below 4110, profitable, but not very profitable. And obviously we reclaimed 4010. So that was a fantastic long opportunity. And I definitely think 4145 is in the cards. But, watch out for potential rejection as you've already got a high here. You've got the equal high here. So you don't want a third high. You want it to break up for the best case scenario. So looking at Bitcoin, getting a little bit of bullishness actually right now. Obviously, the today's low got down to 29.6, which coincided with the weekly VWAP. But this is why I love the weekly VWAP. It gets there's so much action around it. So we held that, immediately wicked back up to above the low. So basically we just swept Tuesday's lows today. We did form a new low, but we swept, the Monday lows and Tuesday lows and reclaimed them. Now we're heading higher. So that's exactly what you want to see. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these because obviously that, applied a little bit more to the higher price action from this morning. 30.2 is really the pivot point around the US Open. We obviously dropped lower, and we did say if we drop lower, we would likely tag this area. So fantastic short if you took that. And then obviously on the reclaim, now the price action resets, very similar to equities. But, since we're above this level right here, as long as we're above this level, if we can reclaim previous daily close, then we can get back up here. Potentially watch out for a rejection at the 30.2 level, which is the previous daily close, which was also, a bit of resistance in the hourly today. So that's a critical level. If you can get above that, then you're back at the highs. And of course, if you get above the highs and you do that, and if you end up, if we end up getting rejected at 30.2 and we get back down to the recent low, we could potentially, again, sweep the low from yesterday, which would be something like that, or potentially sweep, the top of the previous range all the way down here. So very important to consider. Although I am macro bullish, this is when we should, when you would expect to see some volatility. We have technically a 3-tap right here. Technically 3 taps will lead lower. We did obviously get the lower move and then the deviation. So I'm not really counting on that trade. I think it really already played out. Now we have a new trade, which is the reclaim of 29.8. And obviously the target of 30.2, if you get above 30.2, you're targeting 30.4. Above 30.4, you've got a lot of room to roam. And of course, if you break down below 29.8, you're back down to at least the recent low or low end of this range. So very simple trading for Bitcoin. If you wanted to take a long here, you would target 30.2, but I would probably have taken that long a little bit lower. And if you do want to get in here, I'd probably wait for this hour to close. We do want to see some engulfing action, but I would expect a little bit more volatility around here. So you could probably get a better entry, over, into the next hour. Again, remember FOMC minutes are in 30 minutes, which could breed some volatility. I think it'll be short-lived volatility, but it will likely breed volatility. So I would recommend probably waiting until after FOMC minutes, because it'll probably wash away, the news will react, wash away some volatility. And then you can maybe get a good trade heading into the end of the day, or maybe you just wait till the previous or the end of or until today's candles close, which would be about 8 p.m. Eastern. So a couple options for you there, but the trade right now would be long the reclaim of 29.8 and target 30.2 or higher, and then potentially wait for later. But again, I think you're better off waiting for FOMC minutes and 30 minutes, waiting for that volatility to wash out, and then taking a good trade. So looking at Ethereum, a little bit crazier volatility than Bitcoin. I mean, if we just look at, we're on the hourly chart here, tight range for Bitcoin. Ethereum has been pretty much all over the board here. So what happened this morning was we were hovering, right around this level. We were hovering right around that 1890 level. So obviously holding 1890, you break or you boost back up to 1925, potentially higher. You need to obviously flip this level to move higher. Has not done that yet. Still has the opportunity to, but obviously if you get held at 39.20, 39.25, you could just send it back down to 1890. Below 1890, you're probably meeting these equal lows, or at least the 1 hour estimated 200 moving average, which would be, around 1870, potentially down to like 1860. So above 1890, you definitely, again, previous daily close, resistance / support, as well as the weekly VWAP. So a lot of confluence of support here. So I would expect 19 or 1890 to be pretty strong stalwart for today, as it has proven to have been. But, again, 1, 2, 3 taps, and we have not really got that sell-off that we typically expect. So you really need 1925 to hold. We need to get above this high to form a new high for that 3 tap to no longer be valid, because right now it is 100% valid. So, and typically you 1, 2, 3, and then we sell off. So I've talked about the power of 3 many times on this. Power of 3 is always valid if it presents itself. And again, just talking about not entering the Bitcoin trade, you may want to wait for the ETH trade as well for the FOMC minutes too, because, again, the volatility is likely to be reflected across all risk markets, not just Bitcoin or equities or Ethereum. It'll be across likely all three. So probably better off waiting for those minutes. Of course, the minutes could be good and we'd shoot up, but sometimes you pay a premium to not take a whole bunch of risk, and the premium would be the percentage, the small percentage that you miss on the trade by not taking it now. But again, if you're not taking the trade now, you're also not risking anything. So protecting capital is sometimes the better move, especially after all this volatility today. And we are at the local high. So I know a lot of people will probably be shorting here. Not saying, that's a bad idea. You could short with the target of 1890, not the worst idea in the world. But again, in my opinion, just based on, how much news is presented both this morning with CPI, now or in 20 minutes with the FOMC minutes, and then tomorrow with PPI, a lot of news driven volatility will be occurring around those events. And obviously, when there's news driven volatility, unless you're extremely confident of the news, you can definitely get ripped up. So definitely don't want anyone getting ripped up. I personally not in any trades right now. I didn't, took a small long scalp on CPI, but nothing crazy. We did, we expected the bullish CPI. But unfortunately, that core CPI number was not exactly what we wanted. So we're dealing with that now. And of course, ETH has the Shanghai upgrade too, which is going to unlock a bunch of staked ETH. Now, there's plenty of arguments on both sides of the coin in terms of, supply unlocks. That's more supply in the market. Price should go down. Well, if supply unlocks, then people restake. Then what if more people stake? So there's a couple of, areas on both ends, but previously in ETH upgrades, some downside volatility after the upgrade, a lot of bullishness. So I would expect that now, or I would expect the same today. So I don't, know if that downside volatility is going to come, now heading into the event, now that we've got this potential 3-tap. I'm not really shorting anything because I would rather trade with the trend. So I'm just looking for longs. And right now I don't love the ETH long. So I'm just going to be patient until FOMC. If we don't get anything good after FOMC, I'll just wait till PPI tomorrow morning, because that'll be the last kind of news-driven data points. And then we'll have the weekend to hopefully have some good trading, potentially, the rest of Thursday, Friday, and then plausibly the weekend. So because we've had so much beautiful volatility, you don't need to trade every day. And I'm not trading. I do analysis every day because this is my job and this is what I love to do. But you do not need to trade every day. And that is kind of what we're talking about now. So I personally will be waiting until the FOMC minutes. If we, if we bounce back to 1890 and recover, I'll probably long that. If we don't recover at 1890, then I'll probably look for shorts below 1890. For Bitcoin, if we get good news and we're back above 30.2, I'll start looking for scalp longs, or potentially a good long setup to break the highs. And of course, if it's bad, and then I'll look for a short setup if we break below 29.8. Of course, if we just get, volatility in both directions really quickly, then I'll just call it a day and say more trades tomorrow. So I hope everybody's, learning from how we're approaching these trades and the levels that we're drawing and the way that we think about things. We're definitely, our goal is to help everybody as much as possible. So we're going to keep doing what we do. And sometimes, it's just not the best day to trade. So if you did want to trade, my overall bias is still long. Again, I'm not looking for shorts. I am only looking for longs. And therefore, sometimes if you hold your longs, it'll work out for you. But we're interested in taking well-timed, good, opportune trades with low risk profiles and high, and of course, as much reward as we can muster. So right now, I do not think the juice is worth the squeeze with the next 20 minutes coming up, but let's wait to see how FOMC matches up. If we can hold these support levels, then I am back in it just as quickly as I left. So let's see how it plays out, and let's hope support holds. So good luck. Happy trading. See you tomorrow. And again, if you're not in the Trade the Chain community, you're missing out on all of our trade opportunities, over 20 trades per week, every week in the Trade the Chain community. So see everybody there.